if I have a weakness in my G6PD, which is basically the enzyme that takes your carbohydrates that are used for energy production and diverts a certain amount, like investing in tithing, investing a certain amount of that into making your reducing agents. Reducing agent is something that will accept an electron. So if we're inflamed, if we have free radicals, you need a reducing agent to be able to accept that electron. But it also is very important, that same G6PD enzyme in diverting the nutrients that would have otherwise gone for energy production goes into making the reducing agent. It also goes into making our DNA bases. And that is things like purines, pyrimidines, and these are things where if we need rapidly dividing cells to be replaced, which is our gut lining, our skin, our teeth, our nails, our bones, anything that gets oxidized, like our cell membranes, our proteins that continually get broken down, our organs that get replaced, and our tissues that need to be replaced, our red blood cells, all of that is shunted into the HMP pathway, is what takes that glucose that gets phosphorylated G6P and it converts it into G6PD, or G6PD is what converts it and puts it in that pathway. And that's what makes our NADPH. And then our NADPH is used for so many things. It's used for where it's relevant to our conversation today. Let's just focus on this: steroid synthesis. Steroid synthesis. So if someone is older or even younger, they're under stress, their stress response is going out of control, they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, their libido's down, their testosterone's down, their estrogen is up. And for females, the opposite way, where their testosterone might be up, their estrogen might be down, or just they might all be low. Is what is the only pathway in the body that makes NADPH. So if this gentleman has a G6PD deficiency or weakness, and he's got hormone imbalances, how is that related? Right? How is that related? Because ultimately he's not able to make NADPH at the level he needs to be able to make his hormones. That's basically the insight. But what other things that NADPH does, he might have that be impacted as well. And one of the other things that NADPH does is it recycles glutathione, right? It cycles your antioxidants. And one of the things that would increase your demand to make more NADPH is inflammation, right? Because if someone's inflamed, they need to make glutathione, or they're toxic and they have chemical burdens, they need to make glutathione. And in order to recycle your glutathione, you need the reducing agent of NADPH to be made in the HMP cycle. Well, what about sex hormone binding globulin? How is this related? And I explained to him that, well, one of the ways that we boost our sex hormone binding globulin is if we have too much estrogen. One of the ways that we make too much estrogen is if we're aromatizing our testosterone. One of the ways that we aromatize our testosterone is by being inflamed and having insulin signaling. So now we're back to inflammation as the chief, let's call it domino, that puts the whole NADPH demand high and potentially the supply low, right? So then what I did was I ended up looking at his specific genes for inflammation control. And one of the main specific genes that he had as a challenge was SOD, superoxide dismutase. And I asked him about whether he was taking that or not, and he wasn't taking that. It's like, okay, well, SOD can be a really good nutrient for you to take, not every single day, but whenever, and this is this is really the toughest part of functional medicine, and understanding how it's like my grandma's soup. She can give you the recipe to make her soup, but it's not going to taste the same. It's just not, right? I mean, and I said, Grandma, you give us this recipe. How come this tastes so much better when you make it? And she goes, because I put a lot of love in it, dear. And the love is that ingredient. And there's a certain art to knowing you know, you don't measure with a spoon. You have, you know, a dram of this or a spoof of that or whatever the units are called. You know what's missing. Actually, or Zen in the art of supplement taking. You know, there's no textbook that says this is how often you take it, right? And so anyways, the Zen in the art of supplement taking is if you are inflamed, if you feel like your chief complaints of swelling, of exhaustion, of anxiety, of bloating, of not being able to sleep, of being in a panic, whatever those chief complaints are, to me, that's, and depending on how much or how little have you been supplementing up until then, is a real good clue to be able to know, okay, I've been supplementing a lot up into this, and I'm feeling probably a 10 out of 10 on all these things. Probably the Zen and the art would be take away the supplements. You've been taking too much of them. On the other side, if Zen in the art has been, you're feeling a lot of these things, but you really haven't taken this or that for a while, then you know it's needing to take this or that. So that's kind of the playbook on supplements. And then how do I know when to, if I've stopped taking something, how do I know when to bring it in? Well, if you've stopped taking it, then maybe you wait a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and you notice whatever those peaks of those yucky feelings are getting better. You know you've taken enough out of your system, or vice versa. If you haven't been supplementing and you take a couple supplements and you start to feel better, or it takes a couple days, you haven't felt better, but the first day that you start feeling a difference, that's where you take the supplement away. Right. So those to me are Zen in the art of supplementing. Now, so now we are talking to this guy. When was the last time that you took the superoxide dismutase? Oh, I haven't taken it ever. Okay, well, let's get you to take that and take it in a way that in this case, you haven't been taking it. So that means you haven't been taking it too much and you need to back off. Zen in the art of supplement would be you need to pulse up until you start to notice what is it that you're feeling that is you're trying to improve upon. And in his case, I believe it was motivation, anxiety, feeling low, not having libido. So those would be the things with SOD that you would be looking to help. This is a really important statement. You would be looking to help raise the water level on, but not expecting it to be a magic wand and doing all of the heavy lifting for everything that is needed. Right? Does that make sense? Meaning, like, if you feel these ways, you're not motivated, you're depressed, you're feeling low, you don't have libido, you can't really expect superoxide dismutase to do 20 different metabolic things, right? So back to the original thing is okay, well, if you have G6PD, and one of the things that lowers your NADPH availability is inflammation, and we are talking about quenching that inflammation so you have less demand for NADPH and therefore a higher amount remaining. What other things can you do? And you can look at what are the other things that make NADPH less available. And in his case, he had some weaknesses on his BH4 recycling. And we've talked about this before, where BH4 is necessary for dopamine, serotonin, nitric oxide, adrenaline, and it needs NADPH.